Right. Good evening, everybody. It's 7 o'clock. I'd like to call the meeting to order. If you are able, please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. A couple of things before we get started. Dave will not be joining us tonight, so as John and I were joking, your appointees will be representing the township this evening. I thought it was good. And we'll make a couple of adjustments to the order of the agenda tonight. We're going to bring the traditional public comment section up towards the beginning of the meeting. So if anyone's here planning on making a public comment, please make sure that you're ready to do so earlier rather than later. And don't neglect to sign in back there on the board. And when you come to make comments, please come up to the podium. On top of that, we'll have a couple of executive sessions at the end of it. With that being said, I think we have a couple of gentlemen from Delco here to kick us off with public comment tonight. Welcome.
You kind of introduce yourselves, Brian.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Started.
Where is the camera? Is the camera up there? Or
There's actually not one looking at you.
Okay. All right. Well, good evening, everybody. I am Brian Coughlin. I am the Chief Operating Officer at Delco Water. I was asked to participate in this evening's meeting just to kind of give you an update on infrastructure that Delco is planning and in the process of constructing in anticipation of the needs and water demands in the Harlem Township area. So with that, the picture that you see online right there, that is the original Center Village Tower. That's a 250,000 gallon tank. And next to it is our new 750,000 gallon tower, bringing the total elevated storage in Harlem Township to about 1 million gallons. On average right now, currently Harlem Township uses about 250,000 gallons a day. So what we have is about 4 days worth of elevated storage capacity there. We generally like to keep about 3 to 4 in the air, depending on water quality. We have to be sensitive to water quality and water age. So there may be times early in the life of this particular tower arrangement where one of these towers is offline during the winter and brought back online during the summer months to meet more with the seasonal demand patterns until such time that the demand patterns dictate that we leave the second tower online year-round. That tower will be brought online later this year. It's not currently online, but it will be brought online later this year. So this is just an illustration of our water pipe network in the Harlem Township area. The lighter blue lines are lines that are 10 inches and smaller. The darker blue lines are lines that are 12 inches or 10 inches and larger. So we have a couple, as you see over there on County Line Road, we have about a 12-inch line that comes down essentially from north to south down the entire east side of Harlem Township. And then we have a 12-inch line that comes across Sunbury Causeway, Sunbury Bridge on Sunbury Road, and then comes along Center Village Road to the Center Village tank. So that's current infrastructure that you see illustrated there. I want to talk a little bit about where our water usage is on our system. So Delco Water, we serve 57,000 connections, and we are in 8 counties at this point. Our largest county is Delaware County, followed by Morrow County, and then some of the surrounding areas. As you see here, number one, in terms of consumption, now this is 2023 data, about 28.6% of our water is in Liberty Township, followed by Orange Township at 21%, Genoa at 16.5%, and then it dominoes down from there. As you see, Harlem currently is about 1.9%. But we see, this is the next frontier, as I'm sure all of you have heard all of this. the next frontier. And some of it has to do with, the Sunbury interchange on 71. We're starting to see some pressures also up in Morrow County at the State Route 61 intersection. It's just the next logical progression in the next ring out, if you will, from the radius from the city of Columbus. Intel's obviously an impact as well. So we did a corridor study several years ago of how to get more water into the heart of the Harlem Township region and what our needs were going to be. A second line across Hoover Reservoir on Sunbury Causeway, Sunbury Road. And then we looked at going underneath Hoover Reservoir off of Harlem Road and basically over to what we call the Oxbow tank off of Oxbow Road. For you fishermen, you probably all know where Oxbow Road is. For you that don't know, that don't fish, you probably don't know where Oxbow Road is. But it's a little enclave back there off of Tussock and Old 3C. But that's where one of our water towers is. And we looked at going underneath Hoover Reservoir. Due to the expense and risk of that particular type of construction, we have abandoned that concept, but that was one of the original concepts that we had considered. So it was very risky. We know Columbia Gas had a challenge. They were trying to put a 24-inch gas line underneath Hoover, and due to some limitations they had during the drilling process, I think they only ended up putting a 20-inch in as a result of the size of the borehole, and we didn't want to take on that type of risk. Plus, from a maintenance standpoint, how do you ever maintain and service that particular type of pipeline? So there was a lot of factors in abandoning that concept. So we are currently in agreement with a consulting engineering firm called DLZ and with MS Consultants to evaluate and design a transmission project for about $1 million. That's just the design fee for designing the water line from Genoa Township, basically near the State Route 3 and Big Walnut intersection, over into the heart of Harlem Township. So it's about $1 million project with a bridge evaluation as well. We are working with the city of Columbus on whether or not we can possibly go underneath the bridge, not hang off this bridge is Delaware County's bridge, and we've been working with them on what we can do there. There's some challenges with the structural steel that are the bridge abutments. So we're talking about possibly a short stretch of pipeline on the bottom of Hoover Reservoir. Columbus has been pretty receptive to that, working with us on that. We have a really good relationship with the City of Columbus Water Department right now. And so it's working both ways. And we think we're going to be successful in being able to accomplish that. But there are some additional challenges with that. And I'll talk about those here in a second. This is just an illustration of, we have 3 water treatment plants. We have a groundwater plant up in Knox County near Chesterville. We have a water plant over off of State Route 315 between Delaware and Powell. And then we have our water plant at the base of Allen Creek Dam. That's a surface water plant that we call our RES water treatment plant, Ralph E. Scott water treatment plant. So you can see the service areas. Some of them overlap, some of them are blended. We have a lot of ability to move water around our distribution system. It gives us a lot of flexibility to help with where demands are. So that's primarily Harlem Township is served by our Allen Creek plant, or Ralph E. Scott plant at the base of Allen Creek Dam. It's a really high quality surface water because it's got a pretty protected watershed, and it's a big reservoir. So a lot of the particulates settle out before we even withdraw the water from that location. So it's really high quality surface water. Pretty consistent as well. So here's what we are doing infrastructure wise, planning and in construction or design. So right now we are in the process of putting the final touches on what we call our State Route 3 tank and Genoa Township transmission line. This is a 36-inch line, a big pipe for us. This is our biggest pipe on our system. 36-inch line to push water from that Ralph Scott plant there you see at the base of Allen Creek Reservoir over to our State Route 3 tank. Many of you probably seen that popping up over the trees there on State Route 3 across from the Genoa Baptist Church. That is also our biggest tank on our system, a 2 million gallon tank. From there, we're constructing a 24-inch line south to that intersection of State Route 3 and Big Walnut Road. That would be the first leg of what we're calling the Harlem Township transmission line, to augment water into this area, public drinking water into the street, into this area. Currently under design is what we're calling the Harlem Township transmission line. Also a partnership with that project is the Center Village Tank number 2, which I've already spoken about. And there will also be a need for a new booster station. Currently, we have a booster station near the metal fabrication shop there on Center Village Road. That would be abandoned, and we would put in a larger booster station to help supplement this 24-inch line that we're feeding into the heart of Harlem Township. Additional infrastructure that we're looking at, we're working with Columbus and talking to Columbus about a possible master metered connection on the southern portion of the system. So for Delco Water, this is probably the most remote portion of our service area in Delaware County. And so when you get out on the fringes, it's harder to get water into those corners, those nooks and crannies, if you will. So we're talking to Columbus. They've got a lot of infrastructure here. They're building a 4th water plant. They are receptive to a possible partnership agreement where we would be served off of a master metered connection with them and augment service into that area. It may be a short-term agreement. It may be a long-term agreement. We don't really know yet. But we're having those conversations actively because we know and feel like the demands and pressures for development in this area are probably highest down in that corner. Eventually, we would augment that with another transmission line down through the heart of Harlem Township down to the south, and possibly disconnect from City of Columbus at that point, or leave it as an emergency connection to be determined. Up here is what we call the minimize that. Well, that's Project Cosmos. So that yellow dot is Project Cosmos, which is now known as the AWS Data Center, east of Sunbury. We are talking about putting a 1 million gallon tank up there. Those talks have stalled. I don't really know any more particulars than that, other than the delay in getting electric to that site and the challenges getting water. The volumes of water that they need to that site have certainly slowed the progress of that particular data center site. I think what they've done is gone to other places that are more site ready and are investing their dollars there, but I don't think they've walked away from the site entirely. I think it's just been pushed back until utility availability is more imminent. That said, eventually we would run a water line down basically Miller Paul Road. Our goal is to piggyback on the AEP transmission corridors. So these big transmission lines, they're hard to get easements for. They're hard to access. They're hard to service. Delaware County doesn't want them in their road right of ways. And so we've had a lot of success in overlapping with AEP corridors. Property's already damaged, if you will, and you can put water lines next to electric, and there's no challenges between those two. They're not competing entities, if you will. And so from that standpoint, it's worked really well for us to be able to get this. And if you look at that, what you see then ultimately is a spine right down the heart of Harlem Township in terms of a corridor, a transmission corridor, where we can peel off either way, either direction, and adequately serve all of Harlem Township. So we really like this, having this main artery right down the middle of the township, to be able to fully serve the township the way we think it's going to be served long term. In addition to that, we have a lot of excess capacity at our Olentangy plant on 315 there. We are in the process of design and construction of a new pump station and transmission line from the western part of our system over to the east to augment the ability to move water east on our distribution network. And lastly, we are doing a plant expansion. We have engaged a consultant, CDM Smith here in Columbus, to look at a plant expansion at our water treatment plant there at the base of Allen Creek Dam. There's some challenges with that particular site. Mainly, we are on Army Corps property there. We have leased from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Sometimes that takes 5-10 years to work through those. We have a lease that expires there in 2032. So we were planning on renegotiating this lease anyway, but we want to renegotiate in such a way that we have the ability to expand that plant at that location. But given that it's a Class 1 regulated dam, there's a lot of extra hoops that we got to jump through in order to be able to make sure that the dam is not compromised in any way, shape, or form. So that is the heart of what we are doing there. From there, we also have a partnership agreement going on. We're currently in a feasibility study with Delaware County Sanitary Engineering Department. We have a great relationship with the Regional Sewer District over there, talking about reuse opportunities, industrial reuse, manufacturing reuse, possibly irrigation in the future. We talked about some pilot studies where we might be able to reuse water out of, and it's a consistent water supply. You know, it's not subject to the rains. They get about 5 million gallons a day out of our Walker Woods wastewater treatment plant that's available to be used right now. It goes into the creek and goes on down the stream and never to be seen again. And that's possibly a resource for us that we could use for some of these unique high demand users. And we're talking to them about the feasibility of some of that. So we're looking at the business cases for some of that. And we're, I don't know, about a third of the way into that study at this point. But we're looking at economic development corridors. Berlin Business Park is an example. Maybe this area east of Sunbury is an example where some of these reuse opportunities may exist. So by and large, that is kind of a high level overview of what we are currently doing. And it's some big investments. What I envision, and I know you guys have heard a lot of numbers over time about how much water you may see being used here in Harlan Township. The reality is Liberty Township for us is using about 4 million gallons a day. Orange Township is close. Genoa Township's headed that way. We think logistically, you know, it's probably going to be about 4 million gallons a day. One or two big high demand users can certainly move the needle on that. But from our perspective, that's kind of what we're planning for. That's kind of where things have kind of leveled off in other parts of our system. And we think that's probably going to be similar here.
And so when you say a 10% contingency, is that up from the 1.9%? Is that what that's measuring?
10% contingency is, so we have a design contract and we have a 10% administrative contingency.
Okay.
So if we don't have to go back to our board, if we want to say, hey, let's do some geotechnical evaluation of this particular area because we're concerned, we can authorize that administratively at a staff level without having to go back to our board of directors to ask for additional money.
Do you measure this by taps in the future in any given jurisdiction?
We can. Well, our GIS, we can break it down by road. We can break it down by pressure zone, meter route. We can break it down a million different ways. Our GIS system is very robust, and we can do all kinds of queries to break that down by different. We could do it by fire department if we had to. Yep.
And timing wise, when you say we estimate 4 million gallons at some point in time, where is that on your calendar? What's your projection?
So I feel like it changes by the day right now. You know, initially when the Intel announcement was made, you know, there was a big rush. It was a mad dash to the finish line. Some of that pressure has subsided some and allowed some of the planning work to catch up with some of that external pressure that was put on all of us, really. The townships, the government agencies, all of us property owners. I feel like that's subsided some and allowed us to provide some more logical approach to this. A lot of what we do is kind of in response to sewer availability. So when regional sewers this area, that will change the dynamics. Delco really exploded in the 80s and 90s when Southern Delaware County obtained regional sewer. And they went from 1 and 2 acre lots with on-site septic to 1/8 of an acre lots were a possibility, right? That's subject to zoning and all those other things, which Delco doesn't do any of that. We're kind of at the mercy of all the elected officials and all the government agencies. But we kind of follow in line with what we see coming from the regional sewer district. So we know where they're at with some of their timing of some things, but we're kind of in parallel. I mean, obviously, we are very much in parallel with what's going on with the regional sewer district. So from a timing perspective, we would hope that this Harlem Township line, transmission line would be in sometime in the next 5-year time frame. We have to do property acquisition, secure easements. We have eminent domain authority. We don't use eminent domain authority. And quite frankly, to prove that the transmission line absolutely has to go here is tough to prove in court. So we want to work with our local partners and find a solution that is amenable to all.
When I saw a regional study of more than a dozen counties in central Ohio, and this study was looking last fall at providing water out to 2050 for central Ohio. And they looked at Harlem Township, and projection was for a significant number of more rooftops by 2050. And I'm wondering, do those kind of studies figure into your calculus and as you're making these projections?
They do. Our last water system master plan was updated in 2020. It is now 2025, and we are planning on doing a comprehensive update this fall. And starting it this fall. It may not be done till next spring, but starting that this fall. Last time we were looking at a very individual property level based on what we'd seen traditionally. I think this time we were probably going to defer to some of the information that was developed by MORPC and by Ohio Department of Development, because they went down to 0.25 square mile grids. And we are not planners. We can kind of project based on what we know historically. But we want to lean on some of the resources that have been already poured into these efforts, these planning efforts by other outside agencies that this is what they do for a living. So we're going to align with some of that, and we may in select cases go, hey, that's good, but we think something different here. So there may be select cases where we modify some of our projected demands in some portions of our system. But overall, we're going to align with some of what we're seeing from the regional planners of the area. And that's kind of where we're going with this next water system master plan update.
Do you look into the strategic plans in individual townships or municipalities?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yep. At one point in time, when the township was in talks with Westerville, I'd seen a number of 19 million gallons a day, peak day. And, I was saying just now 4. There's a difference between average day and peak day. For us, historically, traditionally, it's about a factor of 2. Like the Medallion area is close to all. There's a lot of large estate lots. They like their green lawns. Most of them probably don't mow their own lawns, right? They have somebody do it, and they want the greenest. And so the reality is, they like that green lawn. They're willing to pay the money necessary to keep that lawn green. And so we have a very high peaking factor in our system of a multiplier of about 2. What I anticipate here in Harlem Township is kind of a hybrid. And that's the nice thing about Delco is we're serving Morial County and large farm, rural residential area. That's kind of how we started, as we are a rural residential farm community. That's how our water system was founded on. And that's our roots, if you will. Because of the glow of the city of Columbus, we have evolved into more of a regional water utility. That said, the southern part of our system has a much higher density and much higher level of service expectations, I would say, than the northern part of our system. So we're very much a hybrid. We're very much familiar with what that community wants up north, but also what the community on the southern portion of our system expects. And I kind of expect that from Harlem Township is you've got some large established lots of folks that don't anticipate moving or selling. They moved out to those areas for a reason. But there's going to be portions, particularly what we see as the southern portion of Harlem Township, that you may see higher densities up against New Albany and Columbus and Blendon Township. You may see some higher densities there. And so we have to be prepared to anticipate some of that and understand how to serve some of that.
At least one developer has posited the concept of a reservoir at some location in the township. And there are needs regionally for water. And so what is Delco's response to that kind of a concept? If a township would posit something like that?
So upground storage is expensive, which is why Columbus at one point in time came in, dammed up Big Walnut Creek, dammed up the O'Shaughnessy Reservoir, put the O'Shaughnessy Reservoir in, dammed up the Scioto. They were a big partner in the Allen Creek Reservoir on Allen Creek. So they basically came up at one point in time, long before Delco even existed as an organization, said, hey, we're going to dam up the Delaware County line, and all that water behind that impoundment is the city of Columbus is to use. And we have a partnership on the Allen Creek Reservoir. We are partners in that. But those areas have all been spoken for by the city of Columbus long ago. We have a water withdrawal off the Olentangy, but we're not damming up the Olentangy and flooding that valley at this point in history. There's just no way. It's just not reality. We have built some upground reservoirs ourselves. We are partners on Columbus's 9 billion gallon reservoir in Thompson Township in Northwest Delaware County. So we're always looking for these strategic partnerships of where's the next drop coming from. We are looking out not 20 years, not 50 years. We're looking out 100 years, trying to figure out, are we going to have enough sustainable supply for this region for the next 100 years? And because if we don't, somebody else will be. Columbus will be. Somebody will be. And we feel that's responsible. Point being, most of this area, the groundwater is not great. That's part of the reason Delco formed to begin with, because the soils and the bedrock, just sulfury water, poor quality water, not universal, but pretty prevalent across Delaware County. And so that's kind of how we formed. So point being, groundwater is limited to areas where there's sand and gravel, which is why we have a groundwater plant up in Knox County. And so that's one region where we're looking. The other upground opportunities, unless we dam up someplace, we have to find a place to store water to level out the peaks, the summer peaks, so that we can have a consistent source water capacity available throughout all parts of the year. We've talked about partnership opportunities. So all of our reservoirs currently are private reservoirs. They're not accessible to the public. We are a private water company, but nonprofit. We're a member-owned cooperative. But point being, they're not open to the public. Whereas Columbus's upground reservoirs on the O'Shaughnessy and the Hoover are public reservoirs. It's a whole other level of management strategy when you open those up to the public. And the Doubt Reservoir was supposed to be, but then when they had to put a liner in it to keep it from leaking, they said, we don't want boat traffic on here, and it's only about 25 feet deep. And so at that point, they took that off the table. And so we've talked about it. It would have to be the right set of circumstances for us to want to do an upground reservoir in Harlem Township. Land prices have climbed substantially. And it's a land-intensive exercise to build an upground reservoir. If we do it, it would have to be in partnership with probably another entity, the development community, likely. And the price structure would have to work and have to make sense. Likely we would be looking outside of Harlem Township to where pricing for land is more in line with to make the economics of an upground reservoir work. Yep.
Thanks.
Delaware County, the trunk line is coming from southwest for sewer. And you're working, you said, closely with the sewer district. How long will it, the route so far looks like it's going up Harlem and up to Yeager property, and then going east. Give or take some. How long will it take for you to install the infrastructure to support that area?
We already have some infrastructure in the area, so it depends on the level of development, which is why we're talking to the city of Columbus now about that regional infrastructure. In the past, Delco has been kind of subject to being given a tower site, or hey, here's where we have land available for a tower site. Delco has transitioned, we've transitioned our line of thinking to finding the right tower site. Tower siting is a science. There is a science to it about where we put our towers. Not just, hey, the developer was obligated to give us a piece of ground and they're going to give us this really crappy piece of ground in the corner, right? And so for us, putting that infrastructure in, a typical tower takes 18 months to 2 years to put up and get online. It can be done faster. In this case, like our 1 million gallon tank, there's only so many of those forms going around to build those towers, and it was being used on the tower in New Albany. So they built the Center Village one because they had the forms available for the Center Village tank until the New Albany one was done, and then they brought those forms up to our tower site in on Lackey Old State. But typically, it's about an 18-month, 2-hour or two-year time frame to build a tower, and depending on the lines and the length and the easement acquisition is honestly the biggest challenge. The easement acquisition is the biggest challenge. So anywhere we can partner with folks to allow us to have a simpler corridor for the water lines, certainly expedites the process. So if we can work with the county or township, if township has township roads where that right of way is available to us in some form, we can expedite getting those lines in those locations. Otherwise, we have to work with every property owner along the way. And I will say this, and I'll say this in a public setting. The first time people want water, they say, hey, we need an easement and we'll get you water. And they say, okay, where do we sign? The second time we come through and say, hey, we need to put a bigger line through your front yard. And they say, well, but I already have water. It's a harder sell to get that easement the second time around. The first time they needed us, the second time we need them. And so it's definitely a different conversation second time going through.
Any other questions for Delco? Thanks, Brian.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Actually, do you want me to leave that with you? Do you want me to leave this with you? You're welcome to keep it if you want.
Yeah, either that or you can email it to me.
Okay.
Either way, that way you can reuse them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. We had a couple other pre-arranged comments here, so I'll call up Molly Snodgrass. Molly?
Sure.
You'll have to forgive my voice. I'm getting over a change of the season kind of cold. So if I sound a little froggy or I have to clear my throat, that's why. So hello, everybody. My name is Molly Snodgrass. A lot of you probably either know me or have heard my name around the township. So I actually hail from Harlem Township. I live here up on Lewis Road. I am running for Big Walnut's Board of Education this year. So I just have been making my way around to all the townships, and I'm going to try to hit the village of Galena and city of Sunbury as well, just to introduce myself to their councils and trustees and anyone in the public. So a little bit about myself. Again, I live here in Harlem Township. My husband and I bought land and built a home in the 2019-2020 timeframe. We have 2 sons, a second grader who goes to school at Souders, and a preschooler who will start there next year. When we moved here to Harlem Township, we really designed our home with the intention to stay here forever. Like, this is where we're planting our roots, right? So we're going to be here for the next 50 years, God willing. So with that in mind, kind of as soon as we moved into our house, I started getting involved in attending township meetings, and as I was a regular attendee of meetings, and opening came up on the strategic planning committee meeting, and they asked me if I would want to join. So I did. So I served about 2 years on the Harlem Township Strategic Planning Committee. And then I also served briefly on its zoning commission before now kind of settling into a volunteer as on its communications committee. So I really have taken it to heart to get involved in the community here. Around that same time, since my son was starting kindergarten, I started also paying attention to what the Big Walnut local school district was doing and either attending or watching their school board meetings. And after kind of seeing what was going on there, when the time came for another election, I really decided I felt the calling to put my name in to try to run for a seat on Big Walnut Board of Education. So a couple of things that I would want to focus on as a future board member are advocacy and outreach, communication and collaboration, and having a vision for the future. So I'll kind of talk about each of those briefly. The advocacy and outreach piece is there is actually a lot of activity going on at the state level by our state government in the Ohio State House with proposed legislation that affects public schools, and not just its funding, but also just different aspects of how public schools are run in the state. I feel that in a board of education, an elected representative of a local school district should really be very much in tune with what's going on down there and able to speak to it and share that information with their community so that the community, the residents in the Big Walnut School District will know, hey, this is what the legislation that is being considered at the State House. This is how our school board is and our administration is saying how it would affect our school district. Is that something that I want to contact my representative about, et cetera. And right now, I don't see our board doing any of that. Actually, they took a very passive stance when the budget cycle was going on for this biennium. And there were a lot of things that were proposed in the state budget that would have really significantly impacted public school funding. And the fact that our board made no effort to really speak about that or inform the community of what was going on, I felt was a big, just an opportunity. I'll leave it at that. So that's the advocacy and outreach space. Next, I would want to work on improving communication and collaboration. So if anyone has watched some recent school board meetings that have gone on, the level of communication and just collaboration of our current school board could be rejuvenated with some fresh faces. I'll put it that way. So I really appreciate that, I believe our board of trustees here has a really good way of speaking and working collaboratively together. And that's the kind of tone and the kind of collaborative mindset that I would want to bring to the Big Walnut Board of Education. And along with that, the communication piece, again, kind of tied back into the advocacy and outreach, I want to see the board and the district communicate more to the residents. A good example of this is a few years back, for a while, they used to send a monthly printed newsletter, the Eagle Examiner, to every household in the district. They stopped doing that for I think there was almost a whole year of gap where they didn't have newsletters at all. Then they brought it back, but as digital only. Well, what I've learned from my time on the Harlem Township Communications Committee is that a digital only format is nice, but especially if you don't have kids in the district, or especially if there's people who aren't actively paying attention, the energy, the activation energy that it kind of takes to remember to go to the school district's website, find that newsletter and read it. Yes, it's available, but it's not as readily accessible as getting it in the mail every day. So we are really not effectively reaching the large part of our school district that doesn't have kids enrolled in the schools. I don't know that we need to bring back a monthly printed newsletter to every household in the district, but I would want to consider at least quarterly, semi-annually, bare minimum annually, get something printed in the mail to every single household so that they know what's going on in the school district. And then the last piece of what I would want to see the board focus on is really similar to what Harlem Township is doing, is having a strategic plan and working with the local municipalities and townships that comprise our school district to understand what they are all doing, how the school district fits into that. The last strategic plan and vision that was done for the school district was, I don't know, I think it was in 2015, maybe even earlier, and it was called Vision 2020. Well, Vision 2020 is 5 years behind us now. And I, as a resident of the district and a parent with young kids in the district, I want to know what's Vision 2040? You know, like my kid's graduating year is 2039. So I just think that there's really needs to be a focus on doing another strategic plan for the school district and having that be community driven, collaborative, and you know, adaptive to change. So as things change, we would need to revisit that. So that's what I hope to bring to the board, and I really hope to earn your vote. I will be happy to answer any questions, by the way.
I think with lack of question here, I think you promote an office hours at the library where people can come and speak with you.
Yes, I do. Thank you for bringing that up. It's normally Wednesdays from 6 to 8. So because I was kind of double booked, I attended here tonight. But every Wednesday from here on out at the library, I'll be there from 6 to 8. I do have a Facebook presence, so you can follow me on Facebook. I have a website, mollysnodgrass.com. So you really can learn more about everything that I just said.
Thanks, Molly.
Thank you, Adam.
Sure. Okay, we have one more pre-scheduled here. Angela, I know we have a resolution that we'll get to later, but we figured we'd let you come up and talk so you don't have to sit around the whole time.
I didn't prepare a presentation.
That's
but
okay.
I
That's
was
fine.
prepared to
That's okay.
answer questions. So whatever questions you got for me, I'm happy to answer.
And I think John could probably walk us into this one.
Can you just give us a synopsis? You gave us this great presentation of what you'd like to do for us.
Mhm.
And just for our residents, and to rehearse for us what you anticipate that being kind of the process and the product, that would be really helpful.
Sure. And some of you I recognize from the planning sessions that we had. My company is a marketing public relations company, but we are based in Fairfield County. Sugar Grove, Ohio is where I hail from. It's a community, Burn Township is not that much different from Harlem Township. So when I got to know some of you through that process, I felt like I was getting to know my know my neighbors a little bit. So what we do is for organizations, we work a lot with government agencies, a lot with trade associations. And part of what we do is branding. And branding for me there's two different things. One is the messaging. One is how you talk about yourself as a community. And we went through a lot of that in the strategic planning process that we just went through. What do we want to look like? How do we want to talk about ourselves? And so that kind of informs then what your visual identity is that you present to the world. And one of the things that I really think is amazing about what this township is doing is rather than letting others define who you are, you're defining who you are yourself. And then my job would be to come in and help you do that from a signage standpoint. So when you come into Harlem Township, what does that sign that says welcome to Harlem Township look like? And what does that make people see, feel, and think about your community? It would help you with things like when you have entities coming in and asking to see your strategic plan, everything that you present to them looks professional, it looks thought through, it looks cohesive, it looks aligned. There are not a lot of townships who do this. And I think that it lends yourself to being very credible when you look really professional. And right now, like I look up here to the signage that's behind here, and there's a different logo, if you will, a different tagline than what there is on your PowerPoint slides that you use, that is on the car in the parking lot. Everything just looks different. And so rather than being aligned, and when you see it, you say that's Harlem Township, you say, oh, is this the same Harlem Township that's on that car thing? Which Harlem Township am I in? So that would be part of what we would do is work with you all. And there would be a kind of a group of people. It wouldn't just be the two of you. It wouldn't just be me in a vacuum. It'd be a group of people where we'd come in, we'd have a conversation. I have some activities that I lead people through. Some of them seem a little silly, maybe, but they actually help me figure out what kinds of visuals and words and colors we want to use. It's kind of a fun process to participate in if you're the person being able to give your input. And then from there, we do a lot of research. I mean, I was looking around this room and I think I would just want to come in this room and just read everything that's on these walls and just soak in all of the things about the township, drive around the township, really get to know it, what it feels like, come to some events, come to some things here to get to know that beyond what I experienced during those strategic planning meetings, do some more research. If you've ever been to Marysville, Marysville is my mom's hometown. It was kind of my second hometown growing up. And I had a real affinity for Scott's seed company, right? I don't know if Scott's is what they're called now, but they were Scott's Farm Seed when I was growing up. And so Marysville chose to create a new brand for themselves because they, like you, are feeling all these pressures from all these entities wanting to come in and kind of take over their community and be partners with them in some cases and be bosses of them in others. And they decided to brand. And I wish I would have done this. It's brilliant because their tagline is where the grass is greener. And it's beautiful and it's perfect and it harkens to their heritage. And every time I drive by that sign, I'm like, that's the Marysville I know and love, right? Even though it's changed, even though it's grown, that makes me feel like I'm home. And so that's what I would want. That's what I would aspire to in working with the township is to make you all, when you go past a sign that has the Harlan Township brand on it, you would be like, yep, that's my home, and be very proud of that sign and proud of the signs in the park and proud of the things that say, signage, directional signage, things on your PowerPoint presentations, all those things. So that would be the process I would use, is to work with you through a series of meetings and input, get some ideas together for you, present those back, tweak those. I've never had it that I've presented a logo and ideas to a client and they've said, that's perfect. We have no changes. It always is a back and forth process. I wish that would happen, but it's just an iterative process. And then from there, we would work with you to create sort of that template of materials that Lindsay can then use for, all the things that you guys need to do here. So that would be the next step in that process, would be a package of things that you can use. And then we would be available to help kind of on an ongoing basis if you need help with signage and creating materials and all those things, but certainly could just hand you the things and you could always do those yourself, because at the end of the day, you own those assets. They're not mine, they're yours. So that would be the process we would love. I would be honored to do it. I've found myself really enjoying my time here in Harlan Township. So I would be honored to do that process.
You talk about a development of a brand rollout plan. And
Yeah.
this is kind of in addition to the actual design process.
Yes. So a brand rollout plan would actually be introducing it to the community, introducing it in a way that people know the process that happened, much like what we did with the strategic plan, where we talked about, here's how we got here. Here's how we ended up here. So helping the community understand the significance behind the brand, how we came to get there, helping people adopt it as sort of their own. Certainly it is not a mandatory thing. You can bring it to a township meeting, say, this is our brand, and start putting it all over everything. And that would work perfectly fine too. Right. But in some cases, it does help to have sort of that introductory process where you sit down with this group of people and talk about the meaning behind it. And then you start to roll it out in a more thoughtful and planful way.
And so for the public's knowledge, you're proposing to do the process and the product for $7,500, which seems very reasonable. And then if we did do the brand rollout, that was an additional $2,500 or $2,000 over 3 months.
So it would be the brand rollout plan, which would give you the
development then deployment.
Yeah. If you wanted me to come and do all the things,
yes,
then that would be the 2,000 over 3 months, because it would take time to come up and do all those conversations and all of that.
And
so.
is that a decision that we can make as we walk down this
Yes,
path?
absolutely.
And then you did have a time frame up here. I think we've already blown through a couple of those.
All right. We'll figure it out.
What do you think, if we were to approve this tonight, is reasonable to go forward with timing?
So I think our original goal was to try to have this done by year end. I think that's going to be a little ambitious, but I think we could get it done, particularly the first sort of round of things by that point in time, and then hopefully finalize things and have that ready to roll in the beginning of the next year.
So the first quarter of 26.
Oh yeah, for sure. But also, we could go faster depending on how quickly we can get people together to have the initial conversations and things like that.
Okay. Any questions for Angela? I'll say, I mean, I love that you mentioned Lindsay because I know that Lindsay and Ashley are both very impactful with like the website now. And so involving the existing team that we have, I think is very important in that. But I think it's also very impactful that you've worked with the township to an extent so far through the strategic planning process and whatnot. So I think that will just make sure that the product that we get is aligned with who we really are and what we're shooting for,
Oh, for sure.
not a Cracker Barrel scenario.
Oh, no, no,
So-
no, we're not doing that.
Looking forward to that.
And also, one of the things I will say, that I look at a lot is, apparel is a big deal, in communities and like what you can put on your shirt or what you can put on a hat or, and things like, I'll just say the Cracker Barrel logo with the man with the barrel, that's very hard to embroider on something or to print on something, right? So I can understand why they might have wanted to go a little simpler, but boy, that was a mess.
Indeed. All right. Well, like I said, we have that resolution later in the agenda, so we'll bring it up at that point, but I appreciate the comments.
Thank you.
Thank you so much
Thanks, Andrew.
for coming up, I guess.
Yeah.
Right.
Coming over. All right, we have 4 different zoning applications that we need to receive this evening. I'll go through it here, but we'll be setting these hearings for the next meeting on October 15th. But I'll take them one by one as they're listed in the resolutions. I'll make a motion to receive zoning application HTZC 25-09. DCRPC met on this application on July 31st. And then commission recommendation to the trustees on September 2nd. So the hearing will be set on October 15th at 7:30 PM. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Carries. And then the next one here, I'll make a motion to receive zoning application HTZC 25-10. I'm gonna butcher this last name, so please forgive me. Kleinenkaiser. Thank you. I practiced. DCRPC met on this application July 31st to the 2025. Commission recommendation to the trustees on September 2nd. Hearing to be set October 15th at 7:35. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Pass. The third, make a motion to receive HTZC 25-11 Kaiser. DCRPC met on this one July 31st. Recommendation to the trustees on September 2nd. Hearing will be set for October 15th at 7:40. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. And then the fourth, HTZC 25-13. Make a motion to receive an amendment to Article 17. Did I get that? I think that's right. Industrial District. DCRPC met on this application on August 28th, 2025. Commission recommendation to the trustees September 2nd. Hearing to be set October 15th at 7:45. Do I have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. All right, moving on to the fiscal office. Lisa.
Number 2025 financials, bank reconcile, the appropriation status and ledger reports, and the cash summary report year to date. You have in your emails, and it's online. Approve the warrants and vouchers, certified that the amounts were available to pay bills in the payment listing report, starting with warrant number 14080 through warrant number 14088, voucher number 212-2025. Total amount $50,657.24.
I'll make a motion to approve the warrants and vouchers. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we've got to re-accept the revised amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certify them to the county auditors. And the reason why is because House Bill 96 passed and it gave local government more funds. So we received $838.96 more because of the House. And that was the only change.
All right, I'll make a motion, resolution 25-0917T-006 to accept the revised amounts and rates as described in the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call on this one, Ashley.
Aye.
holiday.
Aye. And trustee Jackson is absent.
Okay, so we're gonna have to start discussing the budgeting and open session. When would you guys like the budget sheets? And when would we like to set up the budget session?
So October is the month we've set aside for this. Do you have a time that you would like to produce that by, that you would feel comfortable in the first week or two of October? And then meeting,
Yeah, I just don't know. How much time do you guys need to look at it? Like in November, we'll have budget meeting. So if we do it like by, because we gotta give people time to do their budget.
Yep.
For next year. So probably by like next trustee meeting, so that'll give people a month, and I have it ready to send an email out.
So you're suggesting start the conversation on the 15th?
Now. The budget worksheets, make sure everybody has their budgets into me, and then I will send all of them to you. Give you guys a couple weeks to review, to look at, and then in November, we will set a budget. Open session budget meeting. Public meeting, so everybody can discuss if you guys have questions.
So your proposal is the individual departments have their worksheets completed by
Yes.
October 15th?
Next trustee meeting, that'll give everybody a month. And if anybody has any questions, they can contact me.
Chief, I think you got the biggest workload on that. I mean, does that seem like a reasonable time frame? Yours is probably already done, isn't it? So that's good. I mean, I would be open to that, just having that. I mean, do
And
it.
then I'll send, once I get everybody's, then I'll send it out to the trustees, give you guys a couple weeks to review it. And then we can set up in November a special meeting, budget hearing meeting. And then department heads can introduce their budget.
Do we need to set that meeting tonight, or do we have enough time to meet the notice requirements if we set that meeting on the 15th?
It wouldn't be October 15th.
No,
we
that's-
could set the
set the
meeting
meeting on October 15th. We
for
would,
November.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
okay. So then we'll just actually make a note, maybe we'll add that to the agenda for the October 15th meeting. Good with that, Lisa? Anything else? Fiscal?
Thank you.
All right. To have a short list of trustee business here this evening. I'll kick it off. We received email from a resident recently with the discussion of some dog leashing issues at Harlem Park. So I wanted to, or I think we added that to the agenda just to have a discussion on that. Yeah, I think you and I probably received the same email when it regards to that. And I believe, someone correct my memory, but is this identified in ORC? Did we look into that? What did we find?
That they have to be leashed, with essentially shorthand of it, they have to be leashed in control by a responsible, didn't really like give an age or anything, but essentially someone who can control whatever animal it is. So tiny dog, I guess tiny human could control it.
Right.
Large dog, large human. So it has to be on a leash, in control, or being like held.
Mm.
So essentially you have to have full control of your dog at all times in a public park.
Sure. You know, I mean,
So we did get signs
Mhm.
that will be getting put up. So the signs have already come in.
They're up.
They're up.
Yeah, Jason has already
They
put them
finally
up.
got them to him, so I figured he probably already had them. We have discussed possibly getting small, because we just got them off of Amazon, getting smaller signs for under to actually put according to our ORC and being able to list that. That way, if anybody has any questions, I did post it on Facebook twice, with a link to the ORC page explaining exactly what is expected.
but I think from a personal point of view, I think the important thing here is, you know, we have to respect the leash law, which, because it is in the Ohio Revised Code. I think it would be great at some point if Harlem has a dog park, a fenced in area where we can take dogs off of leashes. I have dogs myself. I think, you know, it's one of the best things to do is be able to take them somewhere that's not your own backyard and let them run free. So, I think when it comes to stuff like this, the hardest part obviously is the policing of it. I mean, we can post signs all we want to. We just have to trust that people are going to follow the signs, just like speed limit signs, right? So, we've got the signs out there. Jason, thanks for taking care of that so quick. We'll definitely do what we can, but being the township as it is, there's only so much we can do as far as the enforcement of that. I don't know if you feel any different.
I concur.
Okay. But I will say I do appreciate the notification of the observation from the resident that sent that in.
I can put up a quarterly post if we want, and I can also see if Lindsay can pop that into like a little snippet on their mailing, if possible, if you guys would want that.
Never hurts to over communicate.
Little reminder.
John, you got on here discussion Delaware County Township Associated.
Yeah, so at the Delaware County Township Association meeting this past week, they brought up for discussion for the second time what is called a master agreement to provide mutual and or shared use between various Delaware County, Ohio political subdivisions. And basically, this is a document that allows townships and municipalities to share equipment and personnel in various scenarios that they may encounter in the life of the township or the municipality. And that can be sharing equipment or people. It can be for a normal course of action, or it could be in case of emergency. There's disaster kind of language that's included in this. The agreement covers just about any scenario that one could imagine, to include paying personnel that accompany the equipment, providing adequate insurance for equipment that is used, and providing criteria for the use of equipment, that you can be very specific about how you want that piece of equipment to look or operate when it comes back to you. Or it may be so valuable to you that you say, you can have this equipment, but we're going to provide the operator. And you can create just about any set of criteria that you'd like to, that then the parties agree to. And I talked to Chief about it, and his understanding is, hey, I've already got all this. I have mutual aid agreements. It already is an umbrella under which we operate as a fire department. And so he doesn't really feel that this impacts his department. I think, Jason, it could impact your department. And the important thing, and what I was listening for, is we're not going to be asked to do anything that we don't want to do. Nor would you be asked to do anything that you don't want to do. But it may give you opportunity to reach out if someone has a piece of equipment, et cetera, that you think would be of value to you. And so this is not something that I wanted to bring up for a motion tonight, but I wanted to float it out there. It seems to me, at an initial look and listening to the lawyer that the Township Association brought on board, was a win-win. But would value, I think, Jason, you in particular, reading through the document and providing feedback, and of course for Adam and Dave too as well. I don't know if you have any initial gut response to
I
this.
was part of a meeting last year when this was all starting, and it all kind of came out through the tornadoes that came through there last year.
Yeah.
Just ripped through townships and just helping your neighbor, basically.
Yep.
And the legality of the county getting involved, and the state saying, as you mentioned, wages, insurance, basically money for
Reimbursement.
public entities.
Yep.
It's a big deal. So I see there's value in it in emergency situations. I worry if it turns into a just help me situation, because everything out there available is rentable.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're just calling me to get something done, we don't have time.
Right.
Unless that's all brought out in, future conversations, but it could be very valuable.
Those are similar to your concerns last year when it first came up, right? As far as prioritization of.
Well, it was if somebody buys $1 million piece of equipment, who insures it?
Right.
And if you're using it and it breaks, who fixes it?
Or if you're using it and we need it back.
It's kind of, something quick happens and it's nobody's fault because things happen. Well, who's ultimately responsible?
And
That's just everyday
yeah,
operation.
and this document the language covers
Right.
this.
Right.
So they're trying to find the legalese to
Right.
make this executable, right?
Right.
Can we execute this?
100%. So yeah, thanks for reviewing.
All right, so I'll send you a copy
Mhm.
and I'll send these guys a copy and maybe next month we can take a harder look at it.
I'll give a couple of updates on some of my activities as well, then we'll get to some resolutions here. We're continuing conversations with Galena as far as the sewer conversation in the northwest corner of Harlem Township goes. Had quite a bit of communication back and forth, just trying to, again, get the legalese figured out because, we're looking at, essentially a JED in that area of the township to be able to support that kind of infrastructure investment, as well as some possible other advances. So we're hoping to get that relatively soon. Would love to have something inked on that by the end of the year. We're getting to a point now where that timetable is aggressive, but, hoping that we can get that kind of wrapped up and going. I also had the opportunity last week to meet with the Harlem Township Forum. And I just wanted to take an opportunity to express my appreciation to Bob Singer for extending that invite to me, but also to the forum in general. It's the second time that I've had an opportunity to sit down with the forum, and I know that other folks have, including people in the room. But to me, this is a great example of how the community can be involved outside of an officially established board or committee or commission. You've got a lot of folks from all kinds of different walks of life of Harlem Township, all generations of Harlem Township that are involved in this. They're reaching out to internal, external stakeholders, and having that conversation and really finding a significant education on what's going on, how things are evolving. And so I just really wanted to take the moment here to commend the forum and those of you in the room that are a part of that group. Because that's really what needs to happen. We can't just wait until there's something in our backyard that we don't like the look of to get mad and then start showing up at meetings. We have to be involved, have to educate ourselves. We have to understand what's going on in our community. And this is a great example of how you can do that without having to take some official path through the township governance. And so I really appreciate the activities that are going on there for those of you that are involved in the forum. I look forward to hopefully being able to sit down with the forum more often, more frequently, I guess I should say, and perhaps even getting some more feedback from the forum in these meetings each month as they come around. So just wanted to take a moment to express my appreciation. So thank you for that.
Quick update.
Yes, sir.
So the Delaware County met with Black and Veatch on Monday to discuss sewer. I would say that the decision to move up to the Jaeger property and then turn east is pretty much water over the bridge. That is the direction that sewer is going to run, as opposed to north up to Gorsuch. And so they're working toward those developable acres that are north of Fancher. It is a microtunneling project. They're going to be over the next month working on soil borings and archaeological and topological surveys. So you may see people out in the fields. I think they're going to wait till the corn comes down, but we're going to see some activity along that route. No one is yet talking who's paying for this, but we know how much it's going to cost. Nobody stepped up to the plate and say, hey, I'm going to pay for it. So that's yet to be determined. The meeting with New Albany and Delaware County and Harlem Township will occur this coming week, this next week, where we hope to hear from engineers about the feasibility of some connectivity and what are New Albany's real strategic priorities as they look at attempting to provide greater capacity to our east to that Big Walnut trunk line. So that's unknown. Here's the strategic priority for Harlem Township that I expressed. Any decision that's made about that sewer should not impact the ability of the township to develop in the next 50 years. We cannot make a decision that inhibits the township. The township should be the beneficiary of any decision that's made regarding sewer infrastructure. And so that's the township's strategic position going into these discussions. So we'll see how this unfolds. Okay. Any questions or comments about that?
As it sits right now, we have a special meeting scheduled for October 2nd. The intent and purposes of our recent special meetings have been to provide updates on strategic planning. I know that kind of the main thing that we're waiting on right now is an update from Dana McDaniel on the economic side of things. And I know that the steering committee is hearing a lot of feedback tomorrow, I think, right? The steering committee tomorrow. And so I guess depending on that, depending on pending an update from Dana McDaniel, are we planning to continue to have that meeting, or is there a chance that there might not be a reason for us to meet?
I guess I see no reason to reschedule it at this point.
Right.
And that we'll have to make that decision kind of on the fly here. If we don't get the update from Dana, there really isn't a point in us having that meeting.
Right.
We really need that content.
I concur, yeah.
And so, my hope would be that in the next week, Holly gets that from him and she's able to incorporate it into her strat plan and we can go forward.
I agree. Okay. You want to take this next resolution?
Yeah. Jacob O.D., who lives in Genoa Township, reached out. He is attending Miami University, University of Miami University.
I think so.
In Southern Ohio, not Florida, right?
Right.
Miami University.
Correct.
He is focused on kind of marketing, social media development, et cetera, and would like to do an internship for Harlem Township. We talked to Lindsay with the comm group. Hey, do we think we could put him to work for 70 hours over the Christmas break? We do think that we could accomplish that. And so to that end, I have this motion to approve the hiring of Jacob O.D. as an intern for Harlem Township to assist the communications committee at a cost of $15 per hour for 70 hours. So moved.
That as a vendor, correct?
As a vendor, that's correct.
I will second the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
I can do this next.
Go for it.
This is a motion to approve the hiring of Crowd Communications to assist in branding for Harlem Township at a cost of $7,500. I so move.
Second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, next resolution here, approval to submit application for OPWC grant for road improvement on Green Cook Road. Hey Doug, how you doing? Any comments on this one this evening?
I'll just real briefly, Doug Riedel, Township Liaison for Delaware County Engineer's Office. This is just a reapplication for Green Cook Road. It was very similar as far as our proposed treatment compared to last year's application. And I'm sure both of you are aware, Trustee Jackson said that he would be glad to be appointed as the trustee for the authorizing legislation and so forth for all the paperwork. So happy to answer any questions.
Any questions on it? And essentially, we're talking about the overlay and widening of Green Cook Road from Woodtown to Trenton, section of road near and dear to me. So I'm glad to see that this comes back up. Any questions for Doug or any comments? All right, I'll make the motion to approve submitting an application for the OPWC grant, and I would appoint Dave Jackson as the signer. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thanks, Doug.
Thank you.
So this next motion, for me, I brought this up at the last meeting, as far as discussing with Carol Calhoun, who runs Buckeye Cloud, one of our kind of our IT consultant here, as far as updating some of our live streaming capabilities. I met with Carol here in the township building over the weekend and just kind of looked at our infrastructure, how things are currently set up, what we might be able to do to, one, make things a little bit more polished, a little bit more streamlined as far as our online presence, and how these meetings are distributed digitally, not just for this board, but also for the other two, three, committees and bodies that meet in this room. And so we went over a few things. Carol does not seem to think that this is an incredibly huge lift. There's a minimal equipment purchase that might be necessary. The one thing that we didn't go so far as to do is to identify every single cord that might need to be replaced. So I asked Carol to just kind of give us an estimate, a quote, kind of a max amount that he thought might be necessary to achieve, things to this means. And so he sent that quote over. I forwarded it to you and Lisa. Lisa, we kind of previously discussed this. But essentially my motion tonight is for a one-time purchase or one-time contract charge with Carol to just update some of our live streaming capabilities. I fully anticipate the dollar amount to be less than the proposal. Once we go through and reuse as much equipment as possible, including the podium, the TV, the computer, we're not replacing anything significant. We had originally anticipated this quote or the estimate to be somewhere around $1,000. He has already dropped that down to a maximum amount of $750. So I would amend the resolution that I'll mention here in just a second to that amount. But I've moved to approve a proposed upgrading of the live streaming services used for Harlem Township at a cost not to exceed $750. Do I have a second?
Second.
Those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Are we still headed for a YouTube channel versus Zoom?
Yes, it would go directly to YouTube. And I did entertain a couple of different avenues with Carol, including maximizing our existing Microsoft suite. What that boils down to be able to get the capacity that we need to do that through the Microsoft suite, there would be an additional charge for that. And then those meetings would end up going to YouTube anyway. There is no charge to use YouTube live streaming, and those videos are stored there currently. So we are kind of pursuing the most economical path, if that makes sense. So next thing here, and Lisa, I'm going to look to a little bit of feedback from you on this. So we have a motion to decline to sign an agreement for a national opioid settlement. I know that you had emailed about this, but I'm curious if you could just help us with a little bit more explanation as to why it is in our best interest to decline the agreement.
Because the original one that we had agreed on is for 28 years. And it's $500 and some every year. And they buy Narcan once a year because it's restricted funds. So we can't just spend it on anything.
Mhm.
And we do not have a health department here, and we cannot transfer to Delaware County. This one we would have to keep, and it's 10 years. So we have no use, we can't use it.
So our existing agreement is more beneficial.
Well, it was the first one, and they didn't give enough information, and then they did more websites and all that after we accepted it, and it's for 28 years.
This one, a third of that, basically. Okay.
Yeah, but it's restricted funds, so we don't have a health department, we can't really do anything with it.
We wouldn't be able to capitalize on the amount of money.
Not at all.
So, yeah, with that, resolution 25-0917T-11, move to approve declining to sign the participation agreement for the national opioid settlement with the secondary manufacturers as listed in the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, Ashley, you got a few things in administrative here.
Approval of trustee minutes from August 20th, 2025 for the regular trustee meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Motion carries.
And then my second is approval to pay the indigent burial cost to Day Funeral Services. We recently had a resident pass that was an indigent of indigent burial status. So essentially that means that they are below the poverty line. I think it's like 150% below the poverty line. I've been working with funeral back and forth to confirm that. And then after I looked at the ORC and things like that, we also have to confirm that we can't just use their information. So I did contact the Social Security office. I also contacted Delaware County Family Jobs and Services, confirmed that she is not getting any kind of benefits through either one of them as of now. They gave me as much information as they could. With confidentiality, it's really hard to get information on anybody, no matter how much information you have on them. So it was determined by the funeral home and also by myself and me calling a lot of different places, that she is indigent, and for us to essentially pay for her cremation and release her remains to her family. You guys have to make the choice to say, yes, she is indigent. I didn't give you all that information. I have it because there's a lot of private information in the file, so I didn't want to just have that to everybody. So I can get that to you if necessary, but I have checked, double checked and triple checked. And she did not have the funds, and neither does her family. So essentially you guys just need to approve paying for that to Day Funeral Home, and then I can actually, I will submit an application. Lisa already has the check for me to send, or she's gonna send the check to Day Funeral Home. Once we see that they have cashed that check, we can go for reimbursement through the Ohio State Embalmers and Funeral Services, and they will refund us that $1,000 because they have an indigency fund that can be used throughout the year. So we will be reimbursed for that. Within that resolution, it also says to release her remains to her family, because you guys have to get permission for the funeral home to do so with us paying for it.
Yeah, I'll make the motion here, John, since it's got your name in it. I make a motion to approve payment to Day Funeral Services at the cost of $1,000 for the indigent burial of Harlem Township resident, appointing John Trainer as signer with approval from the Harlem Township Board of Trustees to give consent to release the remains to the family. Do I have a second?
Second.
Those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Carries. Thanks for the legwork on that, Ashley. All right, Chief, I know we got a few things for you, but why don't we just group it all together? You want to do that? Or do you want to cover this first resolution?
Couple things we have to have discussion.
Okay, yeah,
I'll be very brief.
sure.
We normally have an open house because it's Fire Prevention Month in October. We've noticed recently that the attendance has been null at times. We get a lot of our foot traffic during Harlem days. So what we're going to do this year, Ashley's going to help it, and we'll put it on Facebook and on the sign. Basically, October is open house month. So that way, if anybody wants to stop in at any time, they can come in, bring their kids, or just come in and talk to us about anything. We think we're going to try that instead of just a specific day. Because we'll pick a specific day, and then kickoff will be at noon. So that will destroy all of that. Resolution 2597T14, accept the resignation of part-time firefighter Jaden Spencer. Jaden got a full-time job at Berlin, and as part of our policy, once you get a full-time job, you're on probation, we ask you to step down because we don't want you to get hurt here and mess up your full-time job. So that is that. He didn't want to do it. He didn't want to leave. He likes it here, but that's our policy. So I'm going to ask that you accept that.
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thanks, Chief. Jason.
Good evening. Little update on maintenance for the roads. We had a 8-inch clay tile on 10394 Salem Village Road that runs parallel with the road. Failed on us about a month ago. We got that repaired. We did some pretty large ditch improvements near 444 Robbins Road, basically some excavating, added some riprap, little manipulation where the large culverts are down there by Green Cook, and it's pretty good water flow in the springtime. So we tried to improve that a little bit. Sure, most of you have probably seen or will see that we did some road service improvements on Lewis Road, 3 spots on Evans, and the alley over here by Fracasso's, by Buckeye Paving, doing some milling and filling to basically level up some of those culvert areas. And pretty large brush overgrowth removal in an alley over here by Fracasso's at 605 with the boom mower. Second round of mowing, road mowing's been done. We're working with Doug and getting our list together for next year's contracts with Delaware County. I will say a lot of our roads are in pretty good shape, so I'm not seeing a lot of major work out there. But I'm gonna get a list together with conversation with Dave and get with Doug and see what they recommend and get that going for next year's bid. I did reach out to Doug in the county to have the guardrail looked at on Gorsuch Road at the large bridge just down from the Cook Barn. We had learned, actually discovered some of the wooden posts were rotting off at the ground. The county did instruct me that at some point in that guardrail, we take over responsibility, but nobody knows where that is. So they're just gonna fix the posts on their county contract and just get them done because it's a safety concern. They don't know when that will happen, but they designated 7 posts with the back posts will be replaced through their large countywide contract. So that was a plus. And then, as you guys are aware, I've been having that issue on the ditch at 11080 Center Village Road where the drain tile was in. I did get out there last Friday and shot the grade of the ditch. There's 14 inches of fall across the front of that property. So the other little poking around I did, there's comes down to the ditch is wet halfway across and then dries up because it's flowing. And there's nothing we can really do to assist with that water moving at all because he has added a consistent water supply to the ditch, which is made to carry the water. So I reached out to him today, left a message. I would assume I'll get something back with him, but just put you two in the loop because I know we were talking behind the scenes a little bit. And I spoke with Dave about it. And as far as the park, it's been pretty slow on grass mowing, which is a plus. But I've got a hardwood tree coming out, looking at our large oak tree by the shelter that's showing maybe some disease or other stress issues to try to get a heads up by Darius, who's a certified arborist and horticulturalist, that if something's happening that we're not seeing, and see if we can make the tree a little healthier. You probably noticed we got about 16 more loads of fill dirt over the concrete plant. Well, it was at no charge to the township due to a contractor I've been in conversation with for last year. Just needed a place to get rid of some soil, and they offered to bring it in and let us have it. So that was a plus. We're getting a new waste container for the shelter, which we went through with the park committee and everything to buy a new one for the shelter. It's a little larger, and we're going to move that smaller one up to the restroom. And as we spoke earlier, I've already added the dogs on leash sign, and then we purchased 2 more dog waste bag dispensers to put at the east parking lot and then the south end of the trail to hopefully promote more frequent, hey, there's the bag, let's do your duty. Cemeteries had 3 barrels, 1 full at Hunt, 1 full in Barnhart section, and then an urn in Fancher just last week. And I don't know if David spoke to you guys, but we're looking into possibly resetting a headstone of a footer that has failed, with a pretty large stone that somebody brought to attention to Dave. And I've looked into it and looked into some of the costs and whatnot. And I kind of wanted to bring to your guys' attention that this was a family member that brought it to Dave's, and it's a fairly large stone. It's basically leaning over, the footer's failed. We don't know when it went in. The stone's dated 1927. It's definitely not that old. But through my research, we're looking at close to, if we were to remove the stone, redo the footer and set the stone, we're looking at close to $1,000. I truly feel if we start doing that for bad stones, we have a lot of bad stones up there. So does it open the door for doing these repairs as people bring them to our attention? That I feel should, maybe if the family is concerned, the family should be held accountable for the fees. We could supply the labor, do some of the legwork because we maintain the cemetery. But I think to go out and move a stone for $325, have a footer replaced for almost $700 shouldn't probably come on our shoulders. Because as you look at this stone, you see a dozen more. And I think it could really open up a door of, what about mine? What about mine?
Well, do you know what common practice is in
I
cemeteries?
do not know. I've been reaching out to some other local townships and people I know that work at other ones to see kind of how they handle it. And I haven't got much back yet.
Okay,
And I
I
just,
would be curious.
and then it comes down to the stone itself, that we really don't have a way to move it, being as large as it is. I mean, we will put a strap on it, hook it to the backhoe, lift it, hope for the best. Like I say, it's a chunk of marble, about probably a couple $1,000s worth of stone. So if something would happen And some of the pricing I got through R&R, which is local up the road, is just to move the stone over and put it back would be $325 for them to move it. For them to move it and reset it, make everything square and centered is $385. So, and that's, that's what they do. So I want to have more conversations with them and just kind of see what me the best route to try to get this right. But I'm fearful we might open the door to now everybody's going to want that. So just kind of open conversation and ponder on a little bit. I've been talking with Dave about it and got some more legwork to do, but other than just kind of leaning it up and shoving some stuff under and hope for the best, but that's not really going to solve the issue.
Remind me of are we using someone to put in new footers?
We contract out our footers every spring and fall and reaching out to him based on the size to put that footer in is $616.
I guess my question is for them, typically, how long at all do you guarantee the placement of a footer?
That I do not know the answer to, but the guy who does the work guarantees, I don't know if it's a guarantee in contract, but it's in below frost and done right per se.
Sure.
But being new to township operation, I couldn't tell you how long they last, but I mean.
Well, and that would be the first question that comes to my mind, to ask the contractor that does that, just to get some kind of starting point to understand it, right? And then, feasibly, I mean, maybe it's not been there for 100 years, but it's probably been there for a while.
It's based on the concrete. It's been at least 50 or 60.
And, as Dave Snyder will tell you, there's not a straight 100-year, stone that's easy to locate, right? Like the earth moves. So I think it's hard to assign onus and responsibility to stuff like that. But I think I would start with a little bit of fact finding from a contractor that does that day in, day out. I don't know if you feel differently.
No, that'd be great. And do we have a fund for cemetery maintenance that you could do repair work and assign to?
Repairs and maintenance.
When that was created, did it take into account these kind of significant repair?
I have no idea.
Okay,
That was before my time.
yeah,
We do have cemetery. And that all the funds and everything goes into the 241 account for cemetery.
And I think that even opens up a conversation too, is of if you're talking about as an individual, plot. Now, technically, that's an individually owned piece of property, right? So I mean, is that
Each one has a deed.
right?
Yeah.
It's not the township's
Yeah.
property anymore. So,
Right.
Not to argue one side or the other, just I feel like there's probably some more fact finding to do to see what.
And that's what I feel, that just more fact finding and just deeper conversation on where is that level of responsibility being, the private property being, it's private stone. I mean, if
I like you
cost it out, we'll assist in making it right.
Right, you made a comment
But
just along those lines. How can the township help the family facilitate this?
right,
And we would do our part, but that has to have a limit.
I totally agree.
There are hundreds of stones.
Thousands of stones,
Thousands.
and some are probably some you don't even want to get near.
Well, and
So-
also thought of it being a deeded plot, it
Yeah.
is privately owned at that point. So what if we go to repair one and that family says, whoa, we like that it looks weathered and worn. Can't please everybody. So you could have that one person that's like, don't touch my stone, don't move that stone, it's mine. And
Well, if
then,
we went that route, it would all be family driven.
Yeah, it would
They'd
have
have
to
to
be
approach
completely
us, but then we'd have to assess, but you're gonna have stones out there that just have a 1/4 inch slant. They're gonna be, hey, I want that new.
Another place to look for that would be a privately owned cemetery,
Right.
what their kind of SOP is on
We
stuff.
just kind of want to bring it to light, bring it to open discussion for,
That's fair.
thoughts and comments, and we can dwell on it down the road. So it's, it's not going anywhere.
Thanks,
But
Jason.
that's all I got.
Thank you.
I'm about to put in the foundation orders here in the next week and a half-ish, so I can ask him when I talk to him anyway. So
Okay.
I can get that information.
Hey, Jason, next time we give you a hard time about all the money you spend, just remind us that you got free 16 loads of filled dirt for the concrete plant.
Actually,
all
all
of
of
that
that
stuff
stuff over there has been free.
That's great, man. That's great. All right, Mr. Cannon.
All right, just a real quick update. so far for the year, we actually have 56 permits right now. I got 3 in today, 3 requests for zoning permits today as opposed to 53 last year. The 2 violations for the business operating in a residential area, the NEF problem with the commercial dump truck business has been settled by the BZA. They approved the substitute non-conforming use for the dump truck business Monday, not last night, Monday. Yeah. Kaposia is still, they finished their second meeting with the zoning commission, and I'm assuming they're probably going to go to the BZA and request something about a non-conforming use. We haven't heard yet. Scott Messer hasn't contacted me. He usually does contact me and tell me what he's doing. I know we discussed that once before, that it's probably the way he was going to go, but it could change based on what they talked about the zoning commission. Nuisance properties right now, we still have 4 that are out there for discarded trash, noxious weeds. I issued a letter of violation for trash and noxious weeds on Center Village up here. And they had 14 days to comply. They've since cleaned that up and cut all the weeds down. I issued a first letter of violation on a house on Miller Paul Road, and I'm actually working with them. They were starting to get it cleaned up before they got the letter, and there's a lot more improvement going on right now. So may not have to go farther, but I'll let you know. The Kaiser property still shows no owner, but the daughters did make a commitment to come and start cleaning that up. It hasn't started yet. I've got a call out for her because she actually called me and told me they were going to clean it up, and I've not gotten anything back from her yet. Hatch Road property is still in the process of cleanup. They still have 2 huge dumpsters out there. One's full. It's been that way for the last week. I tried to go get a hold of Chip Carpenter to find out, and I'll keep trying to get a hold of him. I left a message for him to see when that was going to get finished, cleaned up, and if they were going to be able to tear down the house like he talked about. I think that's going to take a little bit longer because that's got to go through the courts. Right now, the zoning commission is still working on. They brought 4 lot rezonings to you. They have 3 more they're going to be working on. And the BZA, like I said, will potentially get that non-conforming use case. And then just in general, I did have a couple people call, developers that are interested in property down there on Fancher Road in the mixed use overlay area. It's farther down, like closer to the county line road. And in my discussion with them, I did explain to them, it's going to be a while before you guys see sewer. And they said they know, but they're going to buy the property and sit and wait. They evidently have a lot of money they're willing to sit on. I've had a few calls on a property on the corner of Woodtown and Green Cook Road. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. It's a nice house. They've redone it. They got a nice fence around it now. They got a big, beautiful barn with 2 big bays on the corners on the ends of this barn. It's actually a garage. And then they've got regular car looks kind of like a business because now they have a big blacktop pad in front of it. So I got some more calls on today because a resident was saying they're trying to sell a property across the street, and the people that are looking at the property are questioning them because they don't want to buy it if there's a business across the street. I've had a few other calls on it when they were building that, and I went out there to talk with them, still couldn't get them. Well, I did manage to get a hold of the person today, and he called me back, and he said it's absolutely not. That barn was put in there in honoring his grandfather because his grandfather had a barn like that, and it's actually going to have a boat in one end, basketball courts and things for the grandkids in the other end, and there's just this 2-car garage in the middle. So if anybody has a question on that, you can be at ease. It is just a residential garage. So just in case you hear anything about it, but it's a nice house, and the gentleman was really nice. He said, I'm getting kind of tired of people stopping and taking pictures of my barn. I said, that's probably my people getting hold of me. I said, and I'll try to stop that by letting them know that it's nothing but a residential garage. All right.
Thanks, Mike.
Very nice.
We do have an executive session that we're going to go into this evening with potentially a couple of resolutions after that. Before we move to executive session, though, I realized we kind of quickly transitioned away from public comment. So I do want to make sure that we give another opportunity. If there's anybody from the public that wants to make a comment, that the floor is available. Johnny? Oh, yeah, I totally missed those.
Chicken Noodle Dinner will be held on October 26th from 4 to 7 at the Grange. And also the trunk or treat will be October 25th. We would like to have permission to have a fire pit probably by the shelter house. I don't know, Karen was supposed to have asked it actually, but.
Yes, she did. Yes.
But made it.
Is that on there? I didn't see
No,
it.
it's not.
Okay.
Isn't there a fire burn ban going on in October for 3 months?
After 6 o'clock.
Really? After 6 PM, there's no burn ban. Does something like that need a resolution?
We'll make it happen.
Just permission.
Yeah, I mean, unless you feel differently, Joni, I'm fine with that. According to chief, the burn ban isn't applicable after 6 PM. Jay,
Over at 6. Over at 6.
oh, okay.
October 25th here for the trunk or treat might be a good day to have the firehouse open house. But there'll be a lot of people over there. If you'd like a lot of kids to come see the open house, that's probably a good day. Just about.
Yeah, I think chief will get with you.
And I did mention the noodle dinner on September 26th. There'll also be one in October, but it'll be October 17th. I believe.
Good. Thanks, Joni. Lindsay, got anything? Dave, you made it. Just showed up just to show up then, huh? Nice to see you. Okay. Anything else, John?
Yes, sir.
Make a motion to move into an executive session at 8:39 PM to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official, or the investigation of charges or complaints against public employee, official, licensee, or regulated individual, unless the employee, official, licensee, or regulated individual requests a public hearing by Division G1 of Section 121.22 of the revised code. I would invite to the session Chief O'Brien and Mike Cannon. We will probably do it one at a time, and we'll start with Mike, and then we will come back after that. Also add Assistant Chief McKee.
You
Second,
have to do it separate, the executive session. So,
The subject of the executive session is the same.
right, but you have to take Mike in, come back into open session, then go into executive session. It is the same, but there's 2 different executive sessions, and that's how it's going to be recorded.
Well, that seems like a lot of work, but okay,
Yeah.
that's what we'll do. We'll start.
Mm,
Invitation to this first executive session, Mike Cannon will reconvene and then move into the second one after. I think I heard a second. All those, roll call vote on this one, Ashley, just while you're standing over there.
Holiday,
Aye.
Trainer.
aye.
Motion carries. Move to executive.
Go ahead.
I move to return from executive session. From the first executive session at 8:57 PM.
Second, roll call, please, Ashley.
Holiday.
Aye.
Trainer.
Aye. I move that we go into executive session at 8:57 PM to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official, or the investigation of charges or complaints against the public employee, official, licensee, or regulated individual, unless the employee, official, licensee, or regulated individual request a public hearing by Division G1 of Section 121.22 of the ORC.
I will second. Roll call, please, Ashley.
Holiday,
Aye.
Trainer.
Aye.
So moved. We're in executive session.
Go ahead.
Make a motion to return from executive session to the regular meeting at 9:25 PM. Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please, Ashley.
Holiday.
Aye.
Aye.
9:25. So there were a couple of resolutions revolving fire department staffing on the agenda. We have decided not to vote on those resolutions as they fall within the budgetary purview of the fire department. So no additional action would be necessary on that, and unless John feels differently, I would make a motion to adjourn the meeting if there's no further business at 9:25 PM.
Second.
Roll call, or excuse me, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned.